10 regions of this beautiful land of Guyana, in the Caribbean, further afield, wherever you view us. We want to let you know that we're coming to you from Success on the East Coast. And we pray as you continue to log on to us, as you view us, the Spirit of God will rest and abide with you. We welcome you. Invite someone. Stay tuned. God bless you.
We cannot afford to turn a blind eye to what is happening in our society regarding the level of violence we've been seeing. And that is for several reasons, you know. Lots of persons die, some people are maimed, disfigured, and not being able to fulfill potential and make valid contributions to our society, which they are capable of. And therefore it becomes more and more incumbent that the school, the home, and the community, you know, begin to collaborate and work collectively to see how we could actually rid our society, if not totally decrease this demise. So we need to see respect for authority, you know. We need to see parents taking up their role and responsibility to the maximum. Parenting, it's not, you know, it's not a halfway thing, and therefore parents need to be fully involved. We need to see those elements in the community again, those organizations, those groups, you know, actually looking out for our children. And, you know, some of these things that we see, they don't just happen overnight. Many times before violent acts are committed, we see signs. You know, we see signs of children or people moving in that direction. The propensity is displayed, and therefore we need to be cognizant of all these things if we're going to actually tackle what is happening frontally. I think the time has come when we cannot relax and just say, man, another one bite the dust, but to see how strategically we could curb this kind of situation we're seeing in our country. Gentlemen.
I mourn the pain and the loss of some of our youths. As you read the newspapers daily, as you watch the news, I find it hard to accept that our young people do not seem to have or do not seem to embrace the skills necessary to navigate the issues of life. It hurts to see how we can be trapped, hurt to see how we can be destroyed either by companies or by friends or just by circumstances. And it is painful. And as I reflect on it, I recognize and I concur with my brother Marcel that it requires a community approach, requiring from home to the community, to the state, each one locking in to ensure the development of our young people. But I further recognize two things that I'd like to put on the table. That for our young people to survive the hostility of the environment in which they live, they must learn and practice responsibility, and they must know how to make quality decisions. And so I pray that as we continue this program this afternoon, as parents, as members of the state, as members of the community, as young people, I pray that we will recognize that we just cannot have privileges without responsibility. And every choice we make, there is a consequence. Like this program rightly said, our sum total of our life is dependent on our choices. I pray that we will learn to embrace those two principles as we continue.
Authority is not, therefore, a one-way street. Meaning that those who have authority, they wield it, and they have no commitment, they have no responsibility. Paul was very clear as he was articulating this whole notion about authority. You remember where we left off in Romans chapter 13. He said, so then in verse 2, you know, he says, everyone must submit to the governing authorities, folks who are in government, whether it be in the home, in the community, or in national politics, regional politics. And they love to quote this one, that, you know, people must submit to the authorities. For there is no authority except from God. Very, very important observation. And those that exist are instituted by God. He didn't stop there. There's no argument there. You know, all authority comes from God. There's no question. This is Paul's submission. So then, the one who resists the authority is opposing God's command. No, 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 don't take my head off yet. Wait. Let's develop the conversation. Who resists authority is opposing God's government or command. And those who oppose it will bring judgment on themselves. Again, that is a fact. But Paul will show you that's one way. You know, he'll show you something else. He says, for rulers are not a terror to good conduct. Rulers, those who wield authority, they are not a terror to good conduct. Meaning, therefore, if you're conducting your life good as a citizen of the land, a resident in the land, rulers should not be a terror to you, but to bad. So if we should not find in any environment rulers, or let me put it this way, if we find in any environment rulers using their authority to reward bad and punish good, that is a violation of the authority that they have been given by God. To put it simply, or as one of my friends said early on, all authority comes from God, but all authority is not godly.
Paul said in Romans 13 that he was speaking on authority. He said that authority is not a suggestive comment. Authority is not an advice. Authority is a command. And he further said that every soul, that means that none of us, we are exception from this. Every soul, he said, must obey authority. And further he said that everyone who call upon the name of Jesus are to adhere to this charge. The question, however, is being asked, are we to submit to authority if the authority is very harsh or even wicked? Peter said, as he was writing in 1 Peter 2 and verse number 17, he said, fear God, honor the king. I was doing a background check who this king was, according to Acts chapter 12. This was the same king after King Agrippa I, after he murdered James, killed James, placed the people, he decided that Peter would be next in line. Peter was thrown in prison. God delivered him. But this same Peter, in spite he was being persecuted by this same king, he said, fear God and honor the king in spite what might be happening. We are called authority is from God.
You know, I like what Peter said, because for me, working among young people quite a lot, I have found that there are times when authority has not been very honorable. But yet still the instruction has been one to fear God and honor the authority. Some say, well, you know, my father's, the other day, I was talking to a young man, he said, my father's ridiculous. And I said, how you have described him, if it is true, of course he's ridiculous. But you must always honor your father. Yeah. And so it is teaching that sense of responsibility and find the word of God doing, helping us to separate the issues. The person we must fear is not man, we must fear God. But authority must always honor authority. Do not become disrespectful.
Inherent in the teaching of respecting authority is the notion, the clear notion, that all will give an account to God. Yeah. The one who gave authority in the first place. So nobody gets a free pass. It might appear as though that some people who become excessive in their use, not just harsh, but become excessive in their use of authority, who exceed the authority, it might seem as though they have been given a pass. Some people operate as though they have immunity, that they can just do what they want to do, and there is no one who can stop them. They are very protected. Well, the same one who said that we must submit to governing authorities, which is not limited to government, national, regional, but it includes parental and community, because you have levels of governance there. If people exceed their authority, there is one who they have to come to, and he will deal with us the way we should be dealt with. The whole pitch here is raising children, as Peter Drucker he described managing in turbulent times in the 80s. Raising children in the 21st century cannot be an easy exercise. We would want to submit that. Therefore, with all the different combinations and permutations of family structures that we have, and in our own situation in our country, where the single parent family features significantly as perhaps the most popular model or brand or structure, and if it's not the most popular, it is growing and very, very, very rapidly in our country. Parents will discover that one parent alone, it is extremely difficult and challenging to raise children in this kind of environment. And so there is a need for collaboration, beginning with parents who have authority, and teachers who have authority, healthcare workers, police officers. I'm describing, like I said, I think 2 weeks ago, these are the folks who see the early warning signals in the growth of a child. It's amazing what these folks, parents, teachers, nurses, police, what they see. But whether they, before 9/11, I read that the federal agencies that were responsible for border and for security, they never used to talk to each other. And that's one of the reasons why. And even if they spoke to each other, they didn't do so effectively and efficiently. So lots of matters fell between the cracks. Now, after 9/11, they are talking, they are networking. And so folks found that once they run afoul, it's not only one agency who would pick them up on the radar screen, they're being picked up all over. We have to become as desperate as that. No, I'm not talking about any spying. I'm saying to us, in the family, the school, the police, they have a role to play. And, if we don't get a correction at that level, we're in trouble. We really have to get really adjustments in that area. And we need the community to come on board, because it takes more than the village to raise a child. We need everybody on board in this process of raising.
When you look at the functions of a family, the different things a family should do in relation to caring, in relation to provision of needs and so on, it is clear that it is not a situation where one person, be it a male or a female alone, can actually carry out these functions. And that is why God made it so. And therefore, in the context of marriage, I dare say, and if we have a proliferation of a situation like that, I think you're so correct that people need to start looking out for one another We just operate in our little pockets, you know. My son is doing well, my daughter is doing well, and I have no concern about anybody's child, any other person's child. And I'm sure many of us can reflect when we were growing up. I know where persons used to say, sir, you go home now, because you should be at your home now. You know, you want to lime around from school as a young man and so on. And that was the spirit. And so I think we need to get back to that situation again where persons can actually show that care and concern, not only for their own, but for others.
Parents,
the word that we read earlier.
have a duty. I believe parents not only have a duty, but have a responsibility, not just to lay down the ground rules, but they have a responsibility to be vigilant. And I believe more and more as we examine the whole situation, there must be a need to develop relationships with your children. The children must be comfortable. They're going through situations. They must be able to come to their parents. We must be able to create that enabling environment where you can talk, where you can dialogue. And as we see those early warning signs, we can be able to talk with them and able to curtail some of the actions. And as we work along with the community, as we work along with the different persons in the community, I believe that we will be able to answer and solve so many of the problems that we are facing right now.
I want to submit that there is glorification of the evil that is around us. The word we alluded to earlier, that rulers are not a terror towards good, but to evil. Well, you find it difficult to understand how rulers are allowed or are allowing the glorification of evil. Now, there are several young people in our society. I would like to think that we have a young society. And daily, through music, through media, and other communication devices, our young people are exposed to some chronic and violent behavior, chronic and violent music that are telling them and suggesting to them to do things. Listen, I heard personally I was at a funeral, and one guy was referring to the soldiers as they marched he was calling them losers. Why? Because this was a military funeral. They were marching in celebrating of their colleague who was gone to be with the Lord. And these guys stood up there and called them losers because they're in uniform. We know that as a disciplined service. But what I want to suggest is that there have to be an end to the vices that are around, that is causing young people to be exposed to all manner of evil. And the rulers, we've got to do something about it. I am doing something in my home, but what about your home? What are some of the things that your children are exposed to that you are unaware of?
You know what I find quite frightening in society? While persons crave for authority and power, there seems to be in some homes a reluctance to exercise authority. Perhaps there are cases where parents share authority with children rather than decide, rather than setting the ground rules. There is over collaboration, excessive meetings and discussion as to what should happen. So while on one side in society we decry, we blame, and we castigate those who exercise excessive authority, in homes there's a reluctance to exercise authority. And I think therein lies the problem. Where children are allowed to do whatever they want to do, and parents, out of fear that they might be losing them, they allow them to do what they want to do.
You're describing a situation of consensus management. in the home, I mean, what are we talking about? These children need to be guided. You need to exercise executive authority there, you know, and parents need to be very careful. Of course, there are times when you need to explain to them, but you can't use as a matter of rule consensus management style in your home, where you have to have a meeting before. Well, is it right or wrong for you to steal a breadfruit? Is it? What are the consequences? If you don't want to come in at 9 o'clock, let's have a discussion. What time would you be available to come home? And that kind of situation. I mean, in a home setting, we're talking about madness there. All right, we don't need that, and too many parents are exercising that that consensus. At age 18, my mother said to me, I was going to visit a friend in All Boys Town. Do not wear that shirt. In my head, when I heard that, immediately I thought, I bought this shirt because I was working by then. And dear mommy to tell me, not in my head I'm saying, I didn't say anything. It was in my head. And I stood on the landing, you know. Some of you understand what I'm talking about. Not a veranda, it's something called a landing. Ask the old people, they'll tell you what that is. So I stood on this landing, and I was contemplating this instruction, take it off. Well, my mother was an expert with a wet plate cloth, right? And I didn't see her creep up behind me. I didn't move fast enough, and that plate cloth hit me, you know, behind my ear, but really between my sense and nonsense. And that was the powerful motivator. I just got up, went into the bedroom, took off that shirt, put on another shirt. I didn't see the difference. But you see, the authority said, do not wear that. No, I came out, she said, much better. I didn't know why, and I went along. There was no discussion there. Listen, sometimes, many times, our parents, if we are watching our parents and elders, watching out for youngsters, we have their best interests at heart. And not because you may have one bad parent or one bad police, you lump everybody and say they are bad. No. What we have to do is find those rotten apples, rotten herrings, and deal with them condemningly. And allow the whole system to flow on.
You know what happens in a family setting when instructions are given? Like you said, Pastor, you contemplate in your head what or how you will respond. But therein lies the trouble. The longer you take to obey that instruction is the more rebellious you can become. So when you hear an instruction, and this is some simple advice to children. When you hear an instruction, it's because it is coming for your benefit. It's not to destroy you, because parents wouldn't go out of their way to destroy the children that they bring into this world. It would be a mad person that wants to do something like that. So when you're given advice, when you're given counsel, when you're given instructions, it's because it's for your good. Watch the choices that you make.
As parents, you and I need to, someone broached this topic that I'd like us to perhaps close the program out with. When we have a child, or we have, whether the child is related to us or not, it might be your biological child, it might be a child in the village, a child in the school, a child in the class, a child in the club, and you notice an early sign of rebellion. Do we just say, young people, or do we engage?
Well, the engagement, and I can share something that transpired. A young lady came into my office this morning and she said to me, I'm here to say I'm sorry. Sorry? Okay. Sorry for what? Over the years, we had a good relationship. But she was influenced by external forces telling her that I am not her father, so I have no right to give her any instructions. She suffered. I suffered because it hurt to see her walk away. But she's back, simply because she would have experienced some things that is causing her now to regret some of the decisions made.
Bad company.
The parrots.
The parrot said, Millie, you know that one? It's sadly shook. It's wounded there.
Here's some instruction from Ephesians chapter 6. We know this all too well, but let's hear it again. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may go well with you, and that you may enjoy long life on the earth. Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. Authority begins in the home.
If we are going to construct a strong family life, we need both parents. They have to play a very important part. One study shows that where fathers are serving Jesus, 76% of the children, they're serving Jesus. Where mothers alone are serving Jesus, 23% of the children are serving Jesus. And therefore, in other words, our home, the strength of our home lies with parents. We have to set the example.
The pain, it is painful. I heard today, for example, they were recording a 15-year-old was a party to a criminal act, lost his life. My thoughts are with his parents, his family. Please, if you have a child under your sphere of influence, please look and see the signs of, the early signs of departure. Look and see how they're doing things differently. And don't just say, I'm going to pray for them. Engage that child.
That's right.
Rebuke that child. Find out what's happening. God bless you. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for being part of Choices. Remember, you can join us at First Assembly for any of our regular weekly services. I am Celicia on behalf of the set, reminding you that your whole life is the sum of your choices. God bless you.